Welcome to Make It a Habit from wherever it is that you're watching. I'm Sister Agnes Clare, a Franciscan nun with the Ecumenical Order of St Francis, and I'd like to share with you some things that I make a habit. My hope is that you will make some or maybe even all of these things your habit too. So let's take a few minutes and shut the door on the world. Oh yes, that's better. As I reflected upon the lives of Saint Clare of Assisi and Saint Mary of the Cross MacKillop, I realised that both women lived with that same quiet confidence. They willingly let go of everything that was unnecessary so that they could rely completely upon God. They were not diminished by what they surrendered. Rather, they were being prepared for even greater fruitfulness. For someone with a Franciscan heart, the similarities between Saint Clare of Assisi and Saint Mary of the Cross MacKillop are truly remarkable. Although they lived 6 centuries apart, on opposite sides of the world, and in completely different circumstances, they seem to speak the very same spiritual language. It is a language of simplicity, trust, humility, and complete dependence upon God. The more I've reflected upon their lives, the more I've come to believe that they were singing the same song. Clare sang it in a medieval town of Assisi. Mary sang it in the dusty towns and remote communities of colonial Australia. The melody never changed, only the setting. Perhaps that's one of the beautiful mysteries of holiness. God doesn't ask us to imitate another person's life. Rather, He invites us to live the same gospel in our own place, in our own time, and with our own gifts. That is exactly what these two remarkable women did. St. Clare fought tirelessly to preserve what she called the privilege of poverty. She desired that her sisters own nothing, individually or collectively, so that every blessing would be received directly from the hands of Christ. To many people, that sounds frightening. Our world teaches us that security comes from accumulating possessions, building larger savings accounts, securing our future, and making ourselves independent. Clare believed exactly the opposite. She believed that true freedom begins when nothing possesses us. When our hands are empty, they become open. When they are open, God can fill them. When they are full of God, we discover we already possess everything we truly need. 6 centuries later, on the other side of the world, Mary MacKillop embraced precisely the same wisdom. She founded the Sisters of St. Joseph upon voluntary poverty and complete trust in divine providence. Money was often scarce. Resources were limited. The things around her were overwhelming. Yet again and again, when there appeared to be no way forward, God provided. Mary often reminded her sisters to never see a need without doing something about it. That statement is remembered because it is practical. But behind those words lies something much deeper. She could only respond to every need because she trusted that God would provide for every response. Like Clare, Mary discovered that poverty is not first about having little. It is about trusting much. Neither woman's path was easy. Clare faced continual pressure from church authorities who wanted to soften her commitment to absolute poverty. They believed they were helping. She believed they were diluting the gospel. Patiently, respectfully, but with an extraordinary courage, she held her ground until her rule was finally approved only days before her death. Mary's trials were no less painful. She experienced misunderstanding, criticism, and even excommunication. Imagine the suffering of a woman whose whole life was devoted to Christ, suddenly being separated from the sacramental life of the Church. Many people would have become bitter. Many would have walked away. Mary did neither. When her excommunication was later revoked, she harboured no resentment. She simply continued serving Christ. That may be one of the greatest miracles of her life. Not that she endured suffering. Many people endure suffering. The miracle is that suffering never hardened her heart. Clare's heart remained gentle. Mary's heart remained gentle. That gentleness was not weakness. It was holiness. Neither woman sought positions of influence. Neither was ambitious. Yet both became extraordinary leaders. Clare became the first woman known to write a monastic rule that received papal approval. Mary guided a religious congregation that spread throughout Australia and eventually beyond its shores. Neither led through authority, they led through authenticity. People followed them because they recognised Christ within them. Perhaps this is an important reminder for our own time. The world often tells us that influence comes through status, titles, or popularity. The gospel quietly tells us something very different. Real authority comes from holiness. It comes from integrity. It comes from becoming the sort of person whose life speaks even before words are spoken. Clare learned directly from St. Francis. She reflected his joy, his simplicity, his delight in creation, and his absolute love for Christ. Mary was never formally a Franciscan, yet when we look closely at her life, we discover a deeply Franciscan spirit, trust in divine providence, joy amid hardship, simplicity, love of the poor, humility, practical compassion, a profound respect for the dignity of every human person. One could almost say that Mary lived the spirit of Clare in 19th century Australia. Perhaps the greatest difference between them is where their vocation was expressed. Clare remained within the walls of San Damiano. Her ministry was prayer, silence, adoration, supporting her sisters. Her hidden life proclaimed that prayer itself changes the world. Mary stepped beyond monastery walls. Her classrooms became places of hope. Her schools became sanctuaries for children. Her footsteps carried the gospel into isolated communities, forgotten families and struggling settlements. Yet Mary's outward activity flowed from the same place that sustained Clare. Deep prayer, complete trust, quiet surrender. They remind us that contemplation and action are not opposites. They are simply two expressions of the same love. Prayer without love becomes empty ritual. action without prayer becomes mere activism. When prayer and action meet, Christ becomes visible. I've often found myself reflecting upon these two beautiful images. Clare kept the lamp burning before the altar. Mary carried that light into the roads and schools of Australia. Or perhaps, in more Franciscan language, Clare sang the canticle of creation within the silence of San Damiano. Mary sang the very same melody among the poor, the forgotten, and the children entrusted to her care. Different voices, the same song. Different centuries, the same gospel. Different paths, the same Christ. Perhaps that is the invitation they offer each of us. Most of us are not called to found religious orders. Most of us will never write a rule of life. Most of us will never become saints recognised by the church. But every one of us is invited to trust a little more, to hold our possessions a little more lightly, to forgive a little more freely, to pray a little more deeply, to notice one more person in need, to become a little more Christ-like today than we were yesterday. That is how holiness grows, not through extraordinary moments, but through ordinary faithfulness. Saint Clare teaches us to possess nothing so that Christ may become everything. St. Mary of the Cross MacKillop teaches us to see every need as an invitation to make Christ present. Together, they remind us that holiness is simply love made steadfast through poverty, humility, and trust. And that is something worth making a habit. Because I've found that spending time with these two remarkable women changes the way I see the world. They remind me to loosen my grip on what I think I need, to trust God a little more each day, and to look for Christ in the person standing right in front of me. In fact, I try to carry one of their simple virtues with me each day. Perhaps Clare's quiet trust, or Mary's practical compassion. That's right, I make it a habit. And I hope that you will make it a habit too. I hope you will join me again next month for our first month of spring reflection. If you enjoyed this video, then please like, share, subscribe, and press the notification button to get alerts when new content is available. Until next time we meet, take care of yourselves and God bless.